This is day number 3 on the Allis WD-45 restoration. We got a bunch of parts cataloged. We unboxed a ton of stuff this morning. Got it up on the shelves here behind us, all organized nice and neat. Today we're going to work on putting liners in. I got the head cleaned up last night off camera. I started tearing the head apart. Well, I got the deck cleaned up and I got the head off, taking the valve train out. I kind of left that half taken apart so I could show you guys some of that. I'm not going to go over super in depth on how to do a bunch of stuff. This is more just a process to show a lot of before and after. I'll show some stuff on how to or how I do it. It might not be the way to do it or how everybody's going to do it, but it's my way to do it. So like I said, today we're going to do liners. We're going to drop those in and we're going to clean up the crankshaft and get that all clean down there. And then the other thing we're going to do is get the valve train disassembled completely out of the head. We're going to kind of inspect it. We're going to clean it all up and get it ready for reinstallation. But before we can do that, we're going to have to install our exhaust, our intake valves. We're going to have to lap them to the head so that they seal around completely. And I'll kind of show that a little bit, but it's kind of a lengthy process, so I'm not going to show the whole thing. We got our new valve springs, our new valve guides, our retainers, or keepers, whatever you want to call them. And I believe that's it. So we'll get started on this and I'll show you kind of each little step of the process once I get a little bit of headway. So we'll see you in a bit. Hey guys, welcome back. This will be part 2 of multiple parts of this Allis WD-45 restoration. Today we're going to be putting in liners, pistons. I got the head finished. All the valve trains lapped and installed, all new guides and keepers and springs and all that good stuff. So today, like I said, we're gonna just go over kind of quick. We're gonna sort of buzz over some of this stuff just because some of it's hard to film and do all that stuff all at once. But anyhow, I'll show you as much as I can that I think will be helpful, and the rest of the stuff we'll kind of just skip over, I guess, just because some of it's not all that important. So, and I'm sure a lot of you guys have done a lot of this and we're just watching it for the process and not so much informational. So, got our digital calipers here. What I did is I grabbed an old liner. I took all my measurements and made sure these were all the same. Basically, from here to the first O-ring to the second O-ring, overall length of the whole thing, inside diameter, outside diameter of the lip, the length of the lip here, basically any and every measurement that I could possibly get a hold of, we took it. So we got pistons pre-installed. This is a kit from Reliance. I get most of my kits, actually I don't think I've ever bought a kit that wasn't from Reliance. I love their kits, they always come in good. Super well put together. I love them, never had an issue. So basically, like I said, we have pistons pre-installed, which is really cool, super easy. And what I do is I take the wooden end of my rubber mallet, I just give it some love taps on top of the piston until it's sticking out like this, so that you can get a hold of the wrist pin, so that you can take your old piston, knock out your old wrist pin, and then take your connecting rod out, slide it in, and then these actually do not have any bearings on the end of the connecting rod. It's pretty weird. I'll take this back out and show you. I got a little bit of head. So all it is just a clamp basically on the end of the connecting rod. I have yet to really see one like this. I'm sure it's fairly common on these older tractors, but I haven't dealt with it yet. So kind of cool. So all you do, there's no snap rings or nothing on the end like you usually would see on the end of the wrist pin. So that's kind of cool. I sort of like that. It's pretty neat. It's learn something new. I learn something new every day. So we got all of our O-rings here to seal our wet liners. Biggest thing about these is you have to make dang sure that they are super lubricated before you slide those liners back in. And you got to clean up the inner bore on the engine block itself too, where these liners slide through, which we already did. I think I covered that on the last video super briefly. But all you got to do is just take a little wire wheel on the end of your drill and then just literally just buzz around the inside of the bore on the engine block. So pretty easy stuff, but you just got to make sure it's super clean. I blow it down 10 times before I even drop anything in there, and then brake clean the crap out of it, just clean the heck out of it, and then got to make sure your cranks and all that stuff's clean. If you're just doing an in-frame and not pulling cam or crank or nothing like that, which is all we're doing, is just liners and pistons and bearings and stuff like that. We're not doing we're not pulling the camshaft or crankshaft. That all looked honestly really good. No scoring, no damage or anything visually that I could see at all. It looked really good. And I'll try to get a quick clip of the cam and the crank before I get this reassembled. It's just tough to kind of see down there and crawl around and get you guys set up on my head correctly to see it, but we'll see what we can do. Where was I? So I'm reading here in the shop manual that we ordered. This guy, the connecting rod bolt, it's number 6 on this diagram, piston pin lock screw, bolt torque 35 foot-pounds. Basically, it turns on this pin rather than the bushing. So I like that better, honestly. I kind of like that better than the bearing on a traditional connecting rod. I kind of like that better. So it says replacement rods are not marked and should be installed with piston pin clamp screw facing the camshaft. So this guy right here needs to face the camshaft when you're installing these pistons into the engine block. These pistons are smooth faced on top to where these pistons are indented. So that I still need to kind of check on, but I'm thinking that these are shorter pistons because I'm not sure if you guys can see this or not, but let's see. So I have this piston knocked flush to the bottom, and this piston is the old one next to it, and it's flush down here, so it looks about the same height. I can get a quick measurement, but I just don't really want to knock that piston out and have to reseat those piston rings inside there again. It'd be kind of a pain in the butt, but I don't really need to do. Just visually it looks the same is what I'm getting at. That I guess was the last thing I had to sort of check on. But when we get this all together too, we're gonna rotate the engine by hand, and we're gonna make sure that nothing hits. Don't ever just hook a battery and starter up to it and just crank on the key, and then you're gonna, if God forbid something's wrong, it's just gonna smack something and bend stuff and break things internally. You have to rebuild it again. So we don't want to do that. So when we get this all slapped together, we're gonna crank it over by hand slowly, and make sure everything is within spec. I think we're gonna take some measurements also once it is within, basically within being able to start. I think we're gonna take some measurements again and just double check everything. Measure twice, cut once, as they say. So that's what we're gonna do. All right, guys. I am not gonna show probably any more of this process. I just sort of wanted to show you what was going on here. I will show, probably the next clip will be dropping the liners in, and I'll just show one. I'm just gonna show one of everything. I'm not gonna show the whole thing for all 4 cylinders. That's just monotonous and boring for you guys. But I will show putting these on, how much lubricant that I use. I use assembly lube, and you can also use like gear oil or motor oil or something. It really, I don't personally think it matters all that much, but as long as you have a ton of lubricant, you're good. Like I said, lubricant on here, on the liner, on the O-rings, and on the engine block side. That's important. So, all right, I'll quit talking. All right, guys, we got our first liner in here. Liner, piston, connecting rod, the whole works. We got the first one in. So we're gonna drop the second one in here. We gotta clean up one more time before we go ahead and drop it in. Just so that we inspect everything. I drop a bunch of assembly. Don't drop the lube. You're supposed to drop the assembly lube on the crankshaft. Don't throw it at it. But some of you might have already known that. Anyways. Okay, now I gotta clean that crank up again. Okay. Now we're gonna just coat the crank. Give it a generous helping of lubricant. And then, hands are all covered in oil from working those liners with oil. Okay. So what I do is blow this off nice. So what I'm doing right now is I just put some assembly lube on my hand and I'm working it around the inside where those O-rings for the liners are gonna sit. I already lubed the heck out of the actual liners themselves where the O-rings are. I just used some 1540 motor oil, some really heavy duty stuff, and it sticks pretty good. So now we gotta clean up one last time. Clean rag. But I already scraped down. Let's see if I can kind of point it out with the screwdriver. I used a pick, and what you should do really is clean all this up in here, and it really ensures that you have a clean mating surface for when the liner gets torqued down from the head. It really just makes sure that everything is within limits of each other. So blow this off. Real quick one more time. Let me grab that liner and then we'll drop that in. You guys can see how that goes. So if you remember from the last part, the locking nut or bolt goes towards the camshaft, which is this side. You gotta guide the connecting rod onto the crank. Then it's all pretty simple. And it goes pretty quick once you get all set up, but setup takes the longest like anything usually. I just look underneath, make sure everything is lined up where it's supposed to be, and then just take a piece of wood. I can look in the into the engine block here and really make sure that those O-rings are going in nicely. Look underneath one last time. That's on there. We got some remnants of some oil from the O-rings, so we might have to give that a couple more little taps here. Get rid of that. Get rid of that oil. Wow, that thing does not want to be up here. Okay. Clean the piston up. We'll go back through and clean everything up again. But yeah, I gotta go over there and grab that lube, but that's basically it for this top side. The bottom side will be a different story because we got to get the end caps to the connecting rods on. I got all the bearings in. I just got to clean up the end caps and put the new bearings on that, but the bearings are on the end of the connecting rods on this side. So we'll go underneath here in a little bit and then get that bottom end taken care of. I gotta still look and see what they got for specs on the torque. So gotta figure those numbers out and then crush those things on there and we should be ready to go. I just gotta clean up the oil pan and get the new cork gasket on that, and then we can slap that, really just, that can go back together. So, but I think this is all we're gonna have time to do today. And I got an appointment to go to here in a little bit, so we're gonna sign off and I'll get back here in a little bit when we do the bottom end. All right guys, day 2, part 2 of the Allis WD-45 engine rebuild. We got the liners dropped in yesterday. We got the pistons and connecting rods, and now we're doing the end caps. Here, I got the last one. I got the first 3 put on. We just have the last one to do. I just wanted to show you guys this real quick. Once we get these on, we gotta dig up the torque specs. I just want to re-double check the sequence that these need to be torqued down at, because everything's different motor to motor, and I have the shop manual here behind me, so let's dig right in and get to work. All right guys, we're underneath the tractor here. I'm getting ready to torque down the connecting rod caps. I do have one last one for you guys. I have these ones buttoned up. They're not torqued down just yet, but I just wanted to show you guys the last one before we get everything buttoned up, how I do this. Everything's pretty well covered in assembly lube. It's just real sticky. It's like honey, basically. Real nice thick stuff. So make sure you get everything. I mean, not even just the end caps, but just make sure everything you do is pretty well covered in assembly lube. But I just want to show you guys this crankshaft for being almost, I don't know what year this tractor is exactly, but for say 60-year-old tractor, this crank is beautiful. There's obviously a little bit of wear, just a tiny bit, but nothing. I mean, absolutely nothing on any of these journals. I've felt with my pinky on everything. There's no need to pull or do any more work than we're doing. I mean, this motor's in very good shape. The whole bottom end is beautiful, just visually. For the build that we're doing, all it is just an in-frame, and that's all we think that this thing's going to need. There is no water in the motor. There's no nothing. So It was just parked and then locked up over time. So what we're gonna do here is tighten. So there's two different versions. I'll tell you which ones are both. 70 foot-pounds for a castle nut, and then 40 foot-pounds for the self-locking. We have, and I'll show you here if I can reach it. We have the self-locking, no castle nut. There's nowhere to put a cotter pin through. These are just, this is kind of just a little bit, these basically pinch the threads at the end here. So we have the self-locking, which is 40 foot-pounds. So we got the torque wrench over here. We have an electronic torque wrench set already at 40 foot-pounds. We got our bearing shell smothered in a little bit of assembly lube, and we got to make sure we line this up, this little channel with the other channel up top on the connecting rod side. So I just like to keep my fingers up top. If you kind of push this in, it sort of suctions itself to the crankshaft, and then you can sometimes it's a countdown until it slides off, but it'll give you a couple of seconds to at least get the first nut up there. But so yeah, that's about it. I mean, it's pretty simple. Just gotta make sure these bolts, connecting rod bolts, are actually down all the way up top. And it's really a good idea to actually get a good look one last time up top here and make sure that these nuts, bolts, are seated all the way on the actual connecting rod, all the way down, front and back, both sides. Because sometimes, and maybe I can kind of show you here, but sometimes, if you get them snug down, if you're pushing down like this and you know it's seated, let me back this off just so I can show you quick. So sometimes, see, it looks like it's tight down here, but up top, I don't know how well the GoPro is going to pick this up, but up top here, there's a huge gap. So then down the road, say it falls back down, well, then your connecting rod cap is going to be doing this. You're going to have a huge knock, and then you're going to need to tear the motor apart. I think it'd be a pretty easy fix either way, but it's just so you don't have to do that. But then you risk damaging the crankshaft and all that good stuff. So we're just going to double check on everything. And what I've been doing is getting these snugged up with my electric ratchet. We don't go overly tight. We just, it sounds like it's crushing it down, but it's just because they're the self-locking nuts. Still a ways off from being tight. That one got a little tight. So if they do get a little tight, it's not a big deal. I just like to tighten them down a little bit. And then back them off. And then you can take the torque wrench and finish the rest of them off. So let's do that. This one's still pretty loose yet. I may end up going through and snugging these down a little more. This is too much. I may just snug them all up, honestly. Okay, let's see what that does. Oh, she turned off on us. Okay, that was too much. I have to 28, 30, 40. Okay. Alrighty. This headset just keeps sliding off my head. Okay, I'm gonna take this extension off because you will lose some foot-pounds sometimes. That seemed like it didn't really. That was at 43 foot-pounds. Probably have to back that off a little bit. Yeah, I think we're pretty good. Sneak in here. Yeah, I think we only lost about a half a foot-pound. If any, honestly, I don't think we did. Nope. No, they're all good, honestly. Let's get these last two end ones. We'll double check. Nope. Yeah, we're good. So. Cool. I think we got everything. We'll triple check. This is the most, oh, what did I just touch? This is the most important part here to me personally, so I always triple check. And it's a good idea to rotate the motor too, if you can. Being lazy, I don't want to go up top and spin it. All right, we're gonna have to, but I'll do that off camera. For now, the bottom end is torqued, assembled. Now it's time to do the top end. So I'll get this prepped and ready, and then we'll do the top end together here in a minute. Okay guys, we got the head prepped, which is here. You can't see it, it's on the other side of the block. We got the head gasket on. We do have, let's see, let me just double check something. Okay, I just wanted to double check. I sprayed the head gasket with some copper spray that I usually use on head gaskets, just an extra kind of a sealer to ensure that it actually seals when you snug everything down and start running it and you don't leak and blow a head gasket. So it's just a little extra insurance, and it's a cheap way. So I got everything prepped. I got the head cleaned up one last time. I'm just gonna blow it off. I did end up getting the plugs popped out of there too before we get everything sealed down and find out that I can't get them off. So just drop this guy on. That went on nice. Didn't fight at all, so we just got a couple of oil lines, and that's pretty much it. We gotta assemble the or we actually got to clean it. It's back there on the shelf somewhere. Yeah, there it is. We got to clean the rocker arms, and they're actually pretty spotless when we pulled the head. And I just set them on the shelf with everything else that I pulled off accessory wise. So let's get this snugged down. I like to blow everything off. I mean, a ton of times before I actually get finished, just because as you go, there's kind of like little bits and pieces of rust and dust and stuff like that that end up getting dropped down where the threads are, where it's going to seal on the head surface. So let's get some hardware going, and I'm going to find the right socket real quick for these guys. 3/4, get my little ratchet. So I don't know if I just mentioned it or not, I forget, but the head needs to get snugged down and torqued to 90 foot-pounds. And there is actually 2 different sized head bolts. There's some shorties, and then there's some long ones. I believe the shorties go in the middle here. I gotta just double check on that. Long. Let's see, where's the other shorty? There should be one more short one. Maybe there's not. Could have sworn there was though. Oh, here it is. Found it. Okay. All right, so like I was saying too, you're gonna want to use some assembly lube on these as you drop them in. Just do a little, doesn't need to be crazy, but just enough. So when you spin those in there, it goes in nice and even, and then it doesn't bind up on metal to metal. So it's got some lubrication to spin, and then you chance snapping the head bolt quite a bit less. And then not only that, but it actually snugs it down properly instead of being bound up and all that bad stuff. So we'll get these guys fired in here. I'm just gonna snug them down quick with the electric ratchet just to get them close, so I'm not wrenching on it for 10 minutes with a hand ratchet or the torque wrench. So I don't know why this guy's, there it goes. Good part about taking videos too is I can kind of go back and re-look at everything too as I go, which is cool. We got one more, where's it go? That's this guy here. I'm probably staring right at it. All right, let's just leave that for now. This guy goes here. Huh. That's weird. It might go on one of these for this guy here. That's probably what it is. Yeah, here it is. I left one more over there. Yeah. I got to get the other gasket for this guy before I get too far here, but we'll just drop these in the hole for now just to get them in there. Okay guys, we found our gaskets that we need so far. We got a whole gasket kit, so a bunch more we're going to need to find here pretty soon, but we'll throw all the hardware in and let's torque this head down. So this gasket's already under here. I just got those started. So we got, I think I was saying earlier, we got 3 shorties. These go in the middle here. And we got all our head studs, or head bolts rather, pre-lubricated. Got everything cleaned up. We're gonna try to blow it off sort of as we go too. Okay, should be good to go. Let's get this torqued down. I'm just gonna start with the ratchet, the electric ratchet, get it all close. We're supposed to start from the middle out. So we'll start here and just kind of work our way around. It's supposed to be torqued down ultimately to 70 to 75 foot-pounds for the 1/2-inch coarse thread. And then there's, if you can see here, there's 3/8 nuts that go down on studs, and they're supposed to be to 25 foot-pounds. So, well, I think I got this guy set to do the 25 first, but then after that we'll do the 70 and get it all torqued down to the final specs. She's a little tight. Okay, so when we torque this down, we're gonna do this guy, this guy, this guy, this guy, this guy. Oh, we still have these two as well. Before I forget, that's part of the water, well, the thermostat housing, I should say. So that goes on just like that. Bam, I got some nuts in here. I got this surface all cleaned up, top and bottom here for the new gaskets. There's one on this side here that you can only get to with an open and box end wrench, so that you can't even get a torque reading on that. I mean, you can get kind of close by feel, but that's kind of it. So I don't know what they were thinking on that. That's pretty wild to me. But let's get the 3/8 snug down quick, and then a 3/8 stud with a 9/16 nut for your socket size. But yeah, there was kind of a lot of debate from what I was seeing online about the torque specs on these gas WD-45 heads, because they're all different. I believe there's 2 or 3 different types of head bolts on this guy, because there's grade 5 and then there's grade, these look like the grade 5s, but there's a whole bunch of different hardware styles for these tractors, which is very odd to me. But again, we're just matching everything up with a lot of research and just picking the best route to go. But even the guys with the Allis shop handbooks, like from Allis, this is just kind of a little dinky, really short shop manual that doesn't really give a ton of information, which is odd, but it's pretty helpful overall though. I think there's something that goes over this guy. I'll have to double check real quick. Okay, there was not anything that goes over that. I just wanted to double check before we get all snugged down. But now we can get these guys torqued down and go from there. Now let's get this reset. I think I'm going to reset it to the 70 here instead of the 25 like I was going to do originally, just because that's kind of not really in the middle as much as I'd want it to be, just to do the initial torque down. So I may do like 50 to start. We'll do 51 here. So we'll do 51 to start. Let's bump it up a little bit. That felt pretty light. We'll do 60. So we'll do an initial snug. Okay. An initial snug of 60 foot-pounds. And when you're torquing anything, you want to try to get it all in one fluid motion. I might have to get a little extension. Okay. Yeah, let me grab an extension quick. So we found that underneath, I haven't really used this torque wrench too much. I just kind of bought it and haven't had anything to use it on. But we found that this extension, or at least I found that this extension ended up losing about a half a foot-pound overall with the extension. So I'm not real worried about losing torque. We could probably account for it in the settings here electronically. And then sort of just, you really won't have to worry about it. So instead of, say, if we do 70 foot-pounds, we'll just do 70.5 or 71, but there's kind of a broad range, so it really doesn't matter as long as you're over that 70. Between 70 to 75 is a real safe mark. Some guys said 90 foot-pounds, which, and I was also reading, and I kind of agree, way too much. That's more what the book says for the diesel engines, which maybe they might be confused and thinking it was diesel on some of the forum answers that I was seeing. So we're gonna go with the lighter. Definitely do not want to snap these head bolts. That is a pretty much game over at that point. Okay, that was 25. I don't have it set, but you can read it as the meters climbing on here. It's pretty cool. Okay, 25. Okay, so those are snug down to their final specs, and we can go back to them after, once we're done again with the 1/2-inch coarse thread here. So let's bump it up to 70, or let's do 72. Okay, we're at 72 just to be safe. Okay, 72. 72. And like we did before, we're just going to follow our path from before. We can maybe do it a little bit different. Oh, I must have forgot that guy. But I check everything I do for top and bottom end torque specs. I usually do it 2-3 times. I mean, at least 3 times. I'm gonna get back to that one over there in just a second. Get this other side of the head caught up a little bit. Okay. All right, so let's redo that. Okay, 72 foot-pounds. That's perfect. So actually, before we put this away, let's just double check on those. 25 foot-pounds quick. 25. I might go just to C here over. Let's do 27. Just to play it safe. And we're gonna run this too. It's always a really good idea to run the engine for a little bit. Once everything's complete, just say we're in the final stage and we're ready to start this thing up. And it's all put together. I mean, it's all done, ready to drive, I should say. You need to put the break-in period in on it. And that's listed out in the Reliance kit. Actually, it tells you verbatim what to do to break your new engine in. And once you're done with that, I don't know if it tells you, but say like in my International Harvester Handbook, the shop manuals, it tells you specifically to take the valve cover back off and check everything. Valve clearances, torque specs, I mean everything. So we're gonna be doing this probably 2 more times just to be safe. We don't want a blown up motor on startup, so. All right, so next we're gonna grab the rocker arms. I'm gonna clean up where they seat on the head really quick, and then get a nice fresh clean rag. Just clean these guys up. We can take some brake clean to it once we get the heavy gunk off. But just keep in mind too, this is definitely a budget build. This is not a channel where we're gonna do extreme crazy builds. I mean, once in a while we might, I have done it, but I usually try not to get into that stuff, just cost-wise and time and all that. I usually don't have time to do even like these projects for customers, but coming into the slow season, it's a little bit different, being winter time, and equipment sales slow down here around Christmas. So this worked out very well for me actually. So everybody's happy, but bottom line, this is a budget build, just a simple in frame, pretty cheap deal. I mean, I think the customer's only into it. I had him buy the parts and ship them to my shop here. But he's really only into it for a couple grand. I don't even think if that, including extra stuff like the starter and I mean, just everything basically. So gasket kits, you name it. He's only into it for, I think, not even 2 grand. I just sent him another parts list of just like a couple $100 for thermostat and an oil change kit and just a couple other dumb odds and ends. And it included both of these lights, which this one probably works. It's still here, but this one's busted off and missing. So I just told him to get 2 new lights if he wants them. Otherwise, we can forgo that and just take them off and bypass it. You'll never know that they were there. So anyways, let's get the rockers on, and we'll get the push rods in first. I do have them numbered up there. We'll give those a quick clean and we'll throw them into their corresponding spots that they came out of. So let's do that quick. All right, guys, we've got our push rods here off the shelf. So I got them all numbered, and when I was numbering them, I started 1 through 8 here, and I just numbered them each individual push rod. So 1 through 8. So this is number 1. This is number 1 hole here. 2, 3, 4, and so on. So let's get these cleaned up quick. They don't need to be crazy clean. I mean, obviously clean as possible, but these are super clean already, to be completely honest with you. But basically all you're worried about is in where the rocker sits in here, and then where the cam is on that side. Other than that, I mean, obviously if there's a ton of rust and crap on these, you need new push rods. But to where we don't have that. And this motor is very clean inside. Truthfully, I have, normally when I'm doing these motors, they're full of rust and you gotta strip the block and then it becomes kind of a bigger build. But since this one is so darn clean, it's really turned out to be a fairly simple deal. So, like I said, we're just gonna clean these up real quick, top, and slide the rag down here, and then clean the bottom real quick. And if you guys are watching, I appreciate you guys. And if you haven't yet, subscribe, turn the notification bell on. You get notified when we're doing cool projects like this, and then a lot cooler stuff. This is kind of more of the boring stuff that I do, but I still love this, don't get me wrong. But we got the shop, our first Old Iron Revival shop truck actually, that we picked up in Yates Center, Kansas. If you have not seen that video, go check it out. But like I said, subscribe, like, and share. Feel free to comment. I'd always like to hear what you guys have to say. Try to get some better videos for you. If you want to see something different or something else, or you're sick of seeing tractors, let me know. I'll do something else. So I'm always up for doing fun stuff. But these are the reasons why I do these videos, is for you guys. It's not for myself. I already know how to do this stuff, but I enjoy making the content for you guys and give other motorheads something to watch, because I know I love watching these videos. I always have, and I definitely love seeing new channels. I hope you guys do too. So anyhow, got to make sure they're seated down all the way. Okay, they're seated. Those are seated. So we can get rid of this cardboard. Get the rocker arms. Then we can get, there's kind of a little, like a splash guard, more or less, for lack of a better term, that goes on the back side of this as well. So the trickiest part about rocker arm assemblies is the fact that they have to go down super evenly, and it gets a little tricky. You gotta line these holes up, and it keeps slipping off of these and misaligning. Let me get this twisted back around real quick. It can be a little bit annoying, but let's try that. Try to get 1, 2 started. Okay, now the other variable to this. So once you do get these started, which this is not wanting to go in now. Shoot. There we go. That was my mistake. This oil feed line was in the way. Sorry, my arm was probably right in the way. Okay, let me get that snug down before I forget about it. Because I will. Try not to, but I do sometimes. Let's see here. I think that was a 7/16, I believe. Maybe it was a 3/8. Nope, 7/16. Yes, kind of a cool thing too, on some of these old Allis's, I was reading in the shop manual, it says that there's self-oiling rocker arm assemblies from these studs, but this guy has the oil feed tube right here. That's in the head as well, but I guess apparently that's kind of scary. I wonder if they were having snapping issues, because if these are hollow and the oil bubbles up through these studs, that's kind of cool, but the structural integrity must definitely be compromised at that point for sure. I would have to think. So anyways, yeah, like I was saying, I don't think I finished saying what I was going to say, but make sure these little the round end of the rocker arm actually sits down in the push rods. So when you're tightening these down, I always push these down first, because I mean, with experience in screwing up, I have definitely started screwing these down and then ended up having the rocker off like this. I mean, these ones are pretty close anyways, but I think you understand what I'm saying. They'll be off and the push rod will be off, and this whole rocker assembly will be tightened down, and then you got to take it back apart to redo it. So let me get the hardware for this guy and we'll be right back with you. All right, guys, we got our torque wrench set to 27 foot-pounds. I like going a little bit over. These 3/8 studs are usually supposed to be at 25 foot-pounds for this rocker arm assembly. So let's get these cranked down to 27. Okay, that's it. So top end is done. Bottom end is done. What we got to do next is set the valve lash. We just got to read here in the manual how they're wanting us to do it. I'm just kind of doing everything in stages as I go. I'm not going to read the whole manual and then probably forget half the stuff that I read anyways. So I'm just doing this how I go, or as I go. And but on any valve lash set that you're going to do on any motor, there's a lock nut on the end of these rocker arms that are on the push rod side. And as you can see here, we did make sure that all of the rocker arms sat in the push rods properly. But what we're going to do is find our 9/16 open-ended socket. I mean, open-ended box wrench, not socket. And then you need a flathead screwdriver. So you crack these loose, and then you set your valve lash on this side with a set of feeler gauges, which I'll pull out here in a second and I'll show you. And then it could be anywhere from 2,000s to 20,000s, depending on what motor you're working on, or if it's diesel or gas or whatever. I mean, it makes a big difference. So every motor is specific, and you got to check your shop manual and make sure you got your valve lash set properly. So also, it has to be in a specific order too. So as you rotate the motor by hand, you got to get the cylinder to top dead center. And then after that, you got to, it's all different. Sometimes you got to set both intake and exhaust at the same time. Other times you got to rotate it so that you can do exhaust or intake, one or the other, and then the corresponding cylinder that's also at top dead center. So it's all different, but let's figure out what this engine needs. We are pretty much all done, just about. I just wanted to save, like usual, I just wanted to save the last two for you guys. We got all the valve lashes set on each cylinder, 1 through 3, and on cylinder number 4. I got the exhaust valve all the way down. So then at that point, from what I was reading, you have to have, and I've never done it this way specifically, but there's a million ways to set valve lash. So what it was saying to do is have the exhaust valve all the way down just before it starts to come back up. Then you can set the intake valve for that cylinder, and then you rotate the motor from there. And then when the intake's all the way down at the bottom of its stroke and just about to start to come back up, then you can set your exhaust. It's supposed to be more accurate that way. That I don't know 100%. Again, I've never done it quite that way before, but basically what we're doing once we get it to this point, you have your flathead screwdriver in here to adjust. See right now it's got nice drag on this, and I can't just slip this out. So if I crank this down just a little bit, don't crank it, but I can't move it, then it's too much drag. This is too little. I'll do an extreme. Way too much. So what you want to do is you get your proper size, and they say 14 thousandths here, which you probably can't read that. So if you can read that there. So we got our 14 thousandths. For our initial valve lash set, we're going to do 14 thousandths, and you're going to just snug the screw just enough so you get some good resistance and drag on that feeler gauge. And then you have to kind of keep pressure as you're tightening this down. Keep pressure on this screwdriver to back it off kind of as you're tightening the nut down, the lock nut, because otherwise it'll over crank it if you're not compensating with the screwdriver. So let's spin this motor over just by hand a little bit so that the exhaust valve is all the way up and the intake is all the way down. I'm just on the front here, cranking the hand crank just real gently. Let me get it back in place here. So then, if you guys can see those valves going down, I don't know why it won't stay in place. There we go. If you can see the intake valve opening, and then you'll see it kind of pause and stop moving. That means it's all the way down at the bottom of its stroke. If you can hear that, that actually sounds decent. It's a little tight, so what we'll do is reset that. And crack the lock nut loose. Back the screw off. So now we can slip this in here. And then you slowly, as you're sort of moving this back and forth inside of the tappet and the valve stem, you get just enough drag to where you feel it's good. Not too tight, not too loose, somewhere in between. It's kind of all on your judgment. And then what I like to do, so this is the initial set when it's cold. And there really is zero information in the shop manual. It's really not that good of a shop manual. I keep having to go on some forums and stuff to get the actual numbers, and then I'll just kind of go on the consensus, what everybody's agreeing on. I'll just go with that number, and YouTube videos and all that good stuff like we're doing. But what I like to do is recheck all my work. So I like to go down the line and double check to see if I got all the locking nuts tightened down properly, or at all, if I forgot one. Always double, triple check your work, especially with these engines. You can't mess around. And then what we're gonna do too is rotate this by hand. It takes so damn long to rotate it by hand to see everything. So I just have been doing it kind of off camera because, again, it just takes so long, and I don't think you guys are gonna wanna see that. But if you want to see stuff like that, and I'm not going to bore you, let me know and I'll show all that, but I can maybe speed some of it up too. So anyways, we're going to have to get the motor running to check the valve lash again, and we're going to have to wait until it gets hot, because there's a difference between setting cold initial lash, especially on a fresh motor. You want to go a little bit bigger of a gap so that it doesn't push the valves down quite as far, because when everything heats up, these push rods, basically what will happen is all the clearances will start shrinking down, because when metal gets hot, it expands. So then all your clearances get smaller and smaller. So then you're going to want to set the valve lash for, what do we do, 14. So then you have to set it for 12 is what they're calling for, cold or hot, sorry. 14 cold, 12 hot. So we're gonna do that, and I think we might stop here today. We've done quite a bit. I think I'm gonna jump over here to the international pickup and finish the day off with that. So thank you guys, and we'll catch you tomorrow. Alrighty, we're moving on to fuel. We got the carb open, and this is probably the worst carburetor I've ever seen. This is absolutely terrible. I don't know how savable this carburetor is going to be. It's bad. About as bad as they get, I think. My opinion. Other than trashing it and get a different one. I'm not sure how available these carburetors are. If I were to guess, they're probably not super readily available. That's terrible. We'll scrape on it for a little while and see what we can do. All right, guys, we got a finished carburetor here, all completely rebuilt, all new internals. So she's ready to get slapped on the tractor. Hey guys, so we got the dustless sandblasting kit set up for the first time ever. I have not used it yet. I did get a little section here done before today. I haven't used it, I should say. So I kind of got it dialed in so we could get a video and not screw around with the settings on it. So make the viewing for you guys a little bit better. So, but I got it working pretty good. I'm pretty impressed with it. I think we're gonna go through sand pretty quick, but that's okay. It beats the heck out of sanding this thing. So let's get started. I'll get you guys on a time lapse. It should look pretty cool. Hey guys, we got the tractor parts all sandblasted. We got the hood, the grill, the cross member for underneath right there, the gas tank. That's the International's gas tank. But let's go take a look at the tractor real quick. And I got the Farmall C hooked onto it, and I actually kind of rigged up a little wheel lift that works pretty darn good. So I just wrapped a chain around the bottom of the axle there, and then went around top to this little 3-point hitch setup I got. 3-point conversion for the 2-point. So we got it all sandblasted down. It's not perfect. We got to go through and finish it up with a DA and sanding pad. So we'll go through. We got to fix some of these spots here. Got to tack weld some of this, you know, stuff like that. Nothing crazy, but it's already been welded on a few times, and sort of just hit some of these spots out of it. And we got some issues. We got some rust issues here, but it's pretty well across the board here. I don't think we're gonna screw with that. I think we're just gonna end up painting over it. But we got the engine all sandblasted, and see about getting a new belt. That one's fine to run for a little bit, but I'm sure he'll want another one. We'll get a new radiator hose. I mean, it's pretty well gone through. This was already like this before, so I gotta have him order another one of these if we can find one. If not, we'll have to see about repairing it somehow. Probably some JB Weld. Had some good luck with that recently, so try not to use it, but if we have to, we have to, if it's an obsolete part. So but yeah, she's all done. Let's drag it in the shop and get to priming it. Prime, paint, and then we'll prime it, fix these issues, then paint it. We'll rip these wheels off. We still gotta kind of clean it up a little bit. I hosed it off best I could. We got 99% of it, but some of the sandy crap still on it. So we'll have to take the wheel weights off and wheels apart. We got new wheels sitting over in the corner that just came in the other day, and the Farmall is not charging, so that battery's flat dead, so we gotta use the jump pack. But let's get going. Hey guys, welcome back. Got a little bit of a gap here, I think, but not too much, hopefully. I've just been busy. But we got her in primer, just a real rough prime right now, just so that it wouldn't flash rust on us. We still got a little bit more cleaning up to do yet. I just got the wheels and tires off. We're gonna have to clean all this up. I'd like to take the fenders off and kind of get behind here, stuff like that. We can take the fenders off and clean them up, weld them, knock them into place where they need to go back to. So I'm gonna pop the manifold off. We're gonna get this resanded back down a little bit. See how it kind of surface flashed rust. So we'll knock that back down real quick, just wire wheel it and stuff, clean it up. Then we're gonna paint this with high temp. Intake doesn't really need it, I guess, but we're gonna do the whole thing high temp black. And then we're gonna keep cleaning everything up. We're gonna jump to wiring, get the wiring figured out, get new gauges on. But first I'm gonna paint the whole thing orange. And then we're gonna go back and start piecing the whole thing together. And then we'll get it fired up and kind of dial it in how it needs to be. And she should be one happy camper when we're done, and so should the owners. Let's go to work. All right, we moved on to some sheet metal work here. We got some other parts over here. Where are they? Right over here. We got those all sanded down by hand with the flap disc and some grinding wheels and stuff. We got the old paint cleaned up best we could. Got them in primer right now. We're gonna shoot them with some orange paint here tonight. I'm looking to get a big jump today on this tractor. I've had so many other things going on, so we got to get going on this and get a big jump, get a lot done today. So but anyways, we're working on sheet metal, and this is all peeled over, and just picture my thumb pushing this back sort of like this. So we're gonna look at the other side here. We're gonna get a little pry bar, a screwdriver inside of here, peel it back out, and we have to pull this all back here and sort of give it the nice curve that this one has. I got this one sort of best I could right now. It could use probably a little bit more work, but I got all these little cracks ground down so we can fill them with some weld. This thing still needs a little bit more work, but we got to grind that. Still a little bit left to do, but same on this guy. But like I was saying, we're going to try to match this curve best we can. And as I was going to, I was sort of taking the grinder and sort of taking a little bit of lip off of this, like sort of to match these cracks here. So I would, and I'll show you here in a little bit, but basically I was trying to just take a little bit of material off to make that curve again. Otherwise, we're gonna have to throw these fenders in the trash and restart, which we don't want to do. Because they're still pretty decent fenders, but otherwise we're going to need some serious body work, and it's going to get super in depth, and these fenders are not probably not real worth it, but they're still real good fenders for what we're doing. And that'd be another big added cost I don't think that we're going to want to do. So we're just going to try to make the best of these, and let's see what we can get done. But I'll get you guys on a time lapse. I'll try to get you set up maybe sort of up here on the magnetic mount and show you what we're doing. So let's get going. Alrighty, a little bit loud in here, but got the tractor all finished, primed. We're ready for paint now. We got some stuff started in orange just to kind of have a little, couple little test pieces. So let's get this thing in orange and see what it looks like. I'm excited. It's gonna look a heck of a lot different, that's for sure. So next time you see this video, she's gonna be in orange. There she is, all in orange. So the only thing left we have to do is the underneath tomorrow, and we'll throw a couple more coats on. We still got a lot more paint left, so we'll get this video together tonight for you guys. And it's been a little bit since we have a video put together on this thing, and we have a lot of footage to put together. So let's get inside and let's get some video together for you guys. Hope you enjoy.